I spent last week at UC Berkeley at the Haas Business School at an economist conference called the Ideas Economy, Ideas that Press Forward. And it was a conference about innovation, a conference about how to stimulate economic growth. No coincidence, of course, that it took place in Silicon Valley, and no coincidence that it was put on by The Economist, that as a publication is perhaps the most innovative in its field, both in terms of recognizing innovation and of innovating new business models in publishing industry. And I had the opportunity to talk to The Economist's Daniel Franklin, who is one of the sponsors of the event, as well as the executive editor of The Economist magazine. Daniel, welcome to TechCrunch TV.
Thank you.
So, Daniel, you flew out to California, coast to Newcastle, I guess, in a sense, to put on this conference about innovation. What have you most learned?
Well, first of all, just being in California is interesting, Northern California, because it has such a different feel from the point of view of ideas and innovation and possibilities than back in Europe particularly, but I think also other parts of America. It's a very special ecosystem here, and so I think that infuses the ideas and the atmosphere and the sense of possibility, a sort of fundamental upbeat feel to both the importance and the possibilities of innovation.
How central then is technology, particularly in terms of Northern California and innovation?
Yeah, technology is obviously hugely important, but I think it's also clear it's not the only thing that matters. It's all that innovation can happen in all sorts of ways, including business model innovation, process innovation. So it doesn't have to be just clever tech, but clearly technology is driving a lot of the excitement that is going on. And we've talked today, also heard today, about not just narrow, what you might call the traditional California-style tech industry, but the great excitements, for example, in biotechnology, and that may be one of the great areas of excitement as far as innovation goes over the coming decades.
Daniel, what were the high points today for you in terms of speakers and ideas?
Well, I think we had an excellent session that looked at the long view, that looked at
that was with Stuart Brand.
Stuart
right?
Brand, who was who ranged very wide, and it just gives a sense of the range of things that we were looking at. We had Laura Tyson, we had Joe Nye, and Joe Nye, who was the person behind the idea of soft power. China has been a theme as well, very much looking at the rise of other scientific nations, but also the challenges that the very rapid growth, economic growth that China and other emerging markets creates for the planet. So we talked about what was called the wicked challenges, the wicked problems that the world faces in a planet that's going to have 9 billion people by 2050, that has huge strains on resources. And innovation is obviously a crucial key, a part of the potential solution to living in that world where we are going to need much more imagination, much more ingenuity to be able to have 9 billion people living peacefully and with hopefully more prosperity by in only 4 decades' time.
It's not a solution, it's the solution, isn't it?
In many ways it is, and it's a question of making sure that the barriers to innovation don't get in the way of the sorts of solutions that could help. And there's been quite a bit of talk about the culture of innovation, the sorts of blockages that can take place. Removing those is obviously one important thing, both at the corporate level and potentially at the political level as well.
What most concerns you about realizing innovation? What are the most serious stumbling blocks?
I think part of the stumbling blocks are perhaps political in certain areas of technology where there might be great promise, but there are political barriers to adopting them. So, for example, in terms of feeding the world, in terms of feeding the 9 billion people that we have. We need much greater food productivity. So ideas or technologies such as genetically modified crops, but also policies such as openness to trade in agricultural products, these are going to be absolutely essential. And there are difficulties, there are barriers in both those areas.
There were quite a lot of people from Silicon Valley here today, although it wasn't a typical Silicon Valley event. What do you think Silicon Valley can learn from the rest of the world about innovation?
Well, I think Silicon Valley needs to be increasingly open to the rest of the world, in the sense that there's going to be innovative ideas coming from all over the place, including, I think, increasingly India, no doubt China as well. So the opportunities to and the competition from elsewhere is something that Silicon Valley is going to have to be very, very mindful of. And I don't see that that's necessarily a problem. I think it's a good thing, but it's not the only place in the world that can do innovation, clearly.
How central do you see the internet in terms of the evolution of the innovative economy?
I think it's hugely important, not only as a platform for ideas to spread, but also for sharing. We've seen the growth of the social web, and the speed with which you can plug in brains from around the world to solve problems means that, that there's likely to be an acceleration, a speeding up of innovation because of the ease of collaboration.
Do you get a sense of what comes after social when it comes to innovation in Silicon Valley? I mean, we're clearly living through that cycle now.
Yes, I wish I could tell you what the next, I'd probably be a venture capitalist then, placing my bets on something. But my sense is that social still has quite a long way to run, that we may only be in the rather early days of it. And social combined with other things, so we're probably also in the early days of marrying biological sciences, for example, and information sciences, and embedding chips in all sorts of things and providing intelligent data from those devices. So I think it's there is a sense here, and not just from this conference but beyond, that the horizons are actually full of promise at the moment for very rapid innovation.
Well, speaking of innovation, Daniel, I can't resist asking a couple of final questions about the publishing industry. Mm-hmm. The Economist has been a pioneer of new business models. What is your vision of the future of publishing when it comes to innovation?
Well, for us, I think what matters is that we are that we reach readers on whatever platforms are available for us to be read on. And so we're still, I'm happy to say, popular in print, but digital platforms are going to be more and more important for us in future. And so the experience of reading The Economist translates quite well onto a digital platform. And the hope for us is that because of that, actually our potential audience is going to get much, much bigger.
Is it fair to say that you're particularly bullish about the iPad?
Yes, I think that's right, and tablet platforms generally, because it is very analogous to the experience of reading, the lean-back experience, as we sometimes call it, of reading a print magazine. And I think the sense that we have so far from our readers is that they take to the iPad and other tablet readers very easily to read The Economist, and many expect to be reading it in digital form over the coming years.
Finally, Daniel, does lean back mean people are going to be reaching into their pocket more in terms of paying for their content?
I think that's already happening. I think there's been, over the past year or two, quite a shift in terms of the numbers of of media companies that have started charging for content, experimented with different models. There are various different ways of doing it, raising the pay barrier very high or quite high, metering the usage. So I think there is a cultural shift starting to happen in getting the public to accept that not all content is going to be free, that there is some that is paid for, and that there are different ways of doing that, making it relatively simple and straightforward for readers to pay for content. And it's not to say that there aren't huge problems for the industry generally in adapting to that, but I think there is a big shift going on.
Well, Daniel Franklin, the executive editor of The Economist and one of the organizers of the excellent innovation event that you put on at UC Berkeley, thank you so much for appearing on TechCrunch TV, and I look forward to having you on again in future.
Thank you.